Today we are reviewing solving systems of equations, and we're going to use each of the methods: graphing, substitution, and elimination. Plus we'll have one word problem in there as well. So it's a great review for this Friday's test. So let's take a look at the first problem here. And what we are doing is solving by graphing. So use the slope-intercept form. That's the way we'll be able to graph these, each of the lines we have. So positive 2, that's the first y-intercept. So I'm going to start at that point at positive 2, and then use the slope. So I don't see a number out in front of x, but I can treat that as negative 1 over 1. So what that tells me to do is fall 1 and run 1 to the right. You do that a few times, and we got some points on that line. Now just extend those points down to the end of the graph and go the other direction as well. So that means up and then to the left, and that gets us on that line as well. So we go ahead and move on to the next line. And that one has a y-intercept of negative 4. So that's where we're starting. So down 4 spaces right there. And then use the slope. No number out in front of x, so we treat that as 1. And we can write 1 as a fraction as 1 over 1. So that tells us to go up and then to the right. And it looks as though we'll be getting to that intersection real quick, and there it is. And that's the point in which we are going to name. So what that point is: 3 spaces to the right, 1 space down. So we write the answer as 3, negative 1. Well, let's take a look at one other example. There's only one on the test, so it'll be just like these, where y is already by itself. And we start with our y-intercept up 2 spaces on that coordinate plane, and then use the slope. Slope is 1 to 2. So what that means is you're going to go up 1 space and then run 2 to the right. And you can do that a few times. We can also go the other way. Remember, you could treat that as a negative 1 over negative 2. So you could go down and then to the left. And that gets us on that same line as well. Let's move on to the next line, and it has a y-intercept of negative 1. So we start down at negative 1 and then use the slope. The slope is negative 1 to 1. So typically we'd go down and then to the right, but that doesn't get me to the line. So let's go the other way. Let's go up to the left. And that second iteration there gets me to that intersection. And so there it is. It's 2 to the left, so negative 2, and then 1 up, so positive 1. Negative 2, 1 is the point where the two lines cross. Well, the next type of problem we're going to deal with is substitution, solving by substitution. And the problems you'll see on the test will be similar to these in that we have a variable solved for. And that's the time I use substitution. Whenever I have y by itself, or in like this situation, x is by itself. So what we do is we take the expression y is, and we put it in place of the equation down below, in place of this y. So let's rewrite our equation. In place of, we'll rewrite the 4x, but in place of that y, I'm going to write x plus 5. Now, no need to put parentheses around the x plus 5, because there's nothing being multiplied by y except for 1. But 1 doesn't change anything, so we'll just leave it like that. From there, you just start moving terms around. So I'll take that 5 away from both sides. And I will also collect some like terms. And so let's see what we have. Got a 5x, and then on this side I have 15 when I do that subtraction. So I can go ahead and do some division there, divide by 5, and we'll have our answer. So there it is, x equals 3. And so we take that 3 and just substitute it, put it in place of x in that equation above, and find out what y is. So y equals x, but in place of x we're putting 3, and then plus 5. So that is 8. So there it is. We've got x is 3, y is 8. That is the point where the two lines cross. Just like these crossed at these different points, these two lines would cross at 3, 8. Well, one more substitution problem to practice. Again, use it when x is by itself or y is by itself. Just take the expression, in this case x is, and put it in place of x. Now the second substitution problem you see on the test will be like this one, where you're going to have to distribute this 4 over the x. So anytime you have a sign, like a negative sign, or a number like the 4, in front of the variable that you're substituting into, make sure you put parentheses around that expression that, in this case, x equals. And that way, you can use the distributive property and get the right answer. So we're going to go ahead and distribute this 4 over that sum, and I call that a sum because the signs are the same, and we end up with a negative 8y, or minus 4, the two signs are opposite, and then minus 4y equals 20. So we can do some opposite operations here. We can add 4 to both sides, and then we can also collect these two terms. Now when I collect them, look at the signs. They are the same. So that means that I'm going to add those two numbers together. So that gives me negative 12y equals, in this case, 24. And so I do some division, divide by negative 12, and I end up with a y value of negative 2. Well, that's y. We still need to find x. So take that y term and substitute it back in for that equation above and rewrite what we've got. So we've got x equals, and then negative 2 times by y, which is negative 2, and then minus 1. So we do some work there, and we multiply these two numbers. That makes a positive 4 minus 1, which just makes 3. So there it is. X is 3 when y is negative 2. So that's the graphing and substitution method. The next problem, on the next part, we'll be dealing with the elimination method and a word problem.